Oh, how I love this time of year. Joy is in the air. The Starlight celebration is among us. Now, one last thing to do is just go out to Twitter and see what's going on. Oh no. They effing did it. They ruined Christmas. Okay, so let's catch everybody up to speed real quick. Arthars, a popular Final Fantasy XIV Twitch streamer, received a 10-day ban for trash-talking a member of his own party while streaming. He was using Act, which is a parser, a DPS parser, and basically was just trash-talking him, pretty much doxing him in terms of his in-game character and really breaking terms of service. This represents a first time that Square Enix has gone out of its game and actually enforced its terms of service. For the longest time up to this point, the terms of service were and the rules were just don't talk about parsing in game. So this is a really interesting precedent overall with guarding this one specific issue. Now, regarding the terms of service, you're not supposed to be using DPS meters, and thus the conversation is really intricate when it comes to this one issue, and we hope to dive in and show both sides of the argument here. This issue is really nuanced, and I'm going to share my opinion later in this video, but I do want to kind of take you through a little bit of history. Back in February of 2019, Square Enix made policy changes to how it enforces its rules and what is and is not against the terms of service. To be completely clear, Arthars is in violation of those terms of service, and Square Enix has every right to do what it did. But the question then comes up from different members of the community. On Twitter, Miss Kylo Star tweets out, "I'm glad Square Enix's priorities are banning people that bring large audiences to their games rather than dealing real issues like botting and rampant third-party tools that actually damage the game." Now there's this interesting thread here because Logan actually replies, if people are going to ignore the spirit of the terms of service without getting banned because they bring numbers to a game, that's not okay. From what I've heard, he's named and shamed someone, and there is a reason against the terms of service on Reddit and the official forums. No one should be above the rules. He goes on to say that they are banning botters, skill sellers, and people who are actually using damaging third-party tools at the same time. They literally announce this every week or two, but really nobody pays attention because obviously these people aren't streaming. And now Fusion X from Gamerscape tweeted out, someone streaming with a parser overlay and talking crap about someone in their party because their DPS gets a ban? Good. Parsing is against terms of service while largely ignored. That one rule is you don't use it for harassment. Remember, Square Enix can ban you for whatever reasons. Okay, so to recap all that, Arthars got a 10-day suspension because he broke terms of service, and Square Enix pretty much set a new precedence for where they can ban and can police. And this goes into the concept of streamers versus pretty much the rest of the community. Does the value that they have outweigh them actually following the rules? Are they damaging the game or are they helping the game? Is this ban going to hurt him? And overall, the concept of DPS meters. This is going to be a meaty subject, so I invite you to get a cup of coffee, to sit back and relax. And again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Because again, this is a discussion and I really want to know your opinion where it comes to any of these items. So let's go ahead and just dive in. Simply put, for me, I think parsing should have always been in the game. I see it right now as it exists as the haves and the have-nots. You're either parsing or you're not. If you're serious and you're hardcore, you're parsing, and it's a tool that you use but you don't talk about. And now with this change, especially with streaming, it does beg the question, should you even show it on your stream at all? And I think the answer is clearly no, you should not. And then also maybe not go out and be a jerk about it and harass another player. Now, Arthars brings up a really interesting point about his stream and what he brings to the table. Who owns the stream? Who owns that personality? He states,
problem is 10 days later, on my first stream, doing savage content, what if I see a 6k DPS samurai? What am I supposed to do? Can I him? I don't know. What should I do? Is Square Enix gonna own me now? Because I play their game to be a nice person on my stream. My stream! Are you gonna own me now for that? Like, are you gonna be like my agent now, you know? That's what we need to know right now. If you come out and say, yes, you play our game, we own you. Okay? I'll be nice. Right? I need to know whether this is a one-off. I need to know whether this is an isolated incident. I need to know whether there's more context into this. You know what I mean? I need to know. That's what we need to find out within these 10 days.
Now, author's perception here is really quite fascinating because it does raise the question, who owns the streamer? Is the streamer really in charge of their destiny when they're especially connected heavily with one specific game, or are they more reliant on that game? I'd love to know your thoughts. Personally, I think that if you're going to have a terms of service, it should be applied fairly across the board. Where murky waters and issues arise is when things aren't applied evenly. It makes things unknown. It makes things unsure. Can I do this? I don't know. I don't know if I can. Now, that's kind of how the way the world works, which sucks, right? There's a fast line at the airport for that very reason. People who follow the rules, and there are people who are above the law and power and things like that. Sucks, right? But within gaming and where it can be applied when it comes to the situation, Authors was clearly in violation, and ideally, this is going to be a good time to reflect that. Now, he feels and he states that he's going to continue to do this. Like, if he comes back and streams in 10 days and somebody is pulling bad TBS, is he allowed to put them on blast? And this is where things kind of get interesting, and this is where some of the threads take place over on Reddit. So Red Mage weighs in over on the Reddit thread, and he states, "I'm not here to argue an opinion, but just to clear the air on some facts needed here. There is one new thing here that hasn't existed in the older days in Final Fantasy XI and early in Final Fantasy XIV, and it's namely verified Twitch accounts. When you verify your Twitch account, you acknowledge everything that you're streaming that isn't a rehost is your responsibility. It literally takes you out of the propensity for error on the behalf of the GM, which was the entire reason they avoided third-party evidence in the past. Streaming with third-party tools on validated accounts is pretty much jumping up and down and screaming aloud, 'I'm breaking the rules across the borderline and you can't catch me,' when there was no actual border law in place. And the policy against going outside resources was honestly just a courtesy done in good faith to the player base. But good faith isn't what Authors did here. In fact, everything he did here was a blatant violation of the terms of service, relying on sitting behind imaginary rules to screen his activity. The fact that the Black Mage did poorly for his criticism is justified is moot. He broke both the spirit and the letter of the rules so blatantly that the GMs have no room for error here. They can't ignore being outside the source because the outside source is verified and validated that it is his identity and he is literally making money off this bad conduct. Logically, I just can't find a solid defense of it at all here. Any argument about a third-party source is lost when Authors himself is making money off the gameplay and his account, which is a violation under strict guidelines by Twitch. That's airtight. The possibility of deepfakes is lost because he is the active video history. So every reason why Square Enix would avoid using an outside source addressed is in a neat little purple check mark. So to be upset if you must, but understand that validating your account on Twitch as a 14 streamer effectively doxes you to Square Enix. And if you're going to walk on that tightrope gray area rules by using a parser, you better be on your best behavior, because the excuse here is that Square Enix is not accepting outside evidence is gone when you're the source of the evidence, and in good faith that you're not going to ban or abuse that power that you have to harass the target's others and what is keeping you from a ban. So, I mean, well written by Red Mage, and honestly, fantastic point. Authors is a verified Twitch streamer, almost 40,000 people following him on Twitch. So overall, I think that the general mood is that a 10-day ban seems about right. The question is that will that behavior continue? Will this end up changing how other people interact on streams and with one another? Because there is a sense of your character being over the top. Twitch and streaming invites that kind of activity. We don't come here to sit somebody, and watch them just kind of casually be nice. We want to see the excitement and engage with it. And based off of his personality and based off of each individual's personality, there's a community that forms around that of the streamer or the YouTuber and pretty much the content creator. And they kind of have that kind of subculture. So this is going to beg the question and see ultimately where it goes from here, if this changes the attitude and if this has an impact on other streamers and what they choose to do or don't do going forward. Now, the bigger question here I want to shift into is the concept of the DPS meter. I stated earlier that I believe there is the haves and the have-nots when it comes to the DPS meter in this game. To be very clear, because it always everybody has different ideas about what it means to DPS, is that when you look at it, the game doesn't really teach you how to play it. And if you're going to try to get into that upper echelon tier of Savage and even Ultimate, you're going to have to find a way. Now, there are some tools, like the striking dummies, that allow you to go and beat up on that to get a good idea. Because ultimately, there is still another conversation here regarding kind of the elitism piece of it. If you're going to compete at the top level, your individualistic ideas have to go out the window. It's all about the team DPS at that point. If you're pulling 20% less, you're asking for somebody else to make up that 20% for you. Your job is as a team to go and compete against that content together. It's not about you or your sub or how you choose to play the game. Now, on an individual level, the game is also excels really well, and it offers something for both people. But I just want to be clear that the game doesn't have to invite you. You do not have a right to get an ultimate clear. You have to earn that within the game. And that means that you need to make sure that you're doing your absolute best. And the game only offers an outside tool for that. And I think that is essentially a problem. Now, when we look at PvP and we look at some of the systems in the game, there is the remnants of what could be there. And I think that honestly, the thing I want to see most is not, I don't care about other people's DPS. I've always just cared about my own. But it's more than just DPS. How much damage did I mitigate? How many things did I avoid? I really wish the game, throughout the course of its entire journey up to level cap, would tell you how you're performing against yourself. That way you know if you're getting better or if you're getting worse. And then ultimately and somewhat basically de-identifying how do you stack up against other people within that content. Are you in the top 10%? Are you in the bottom 10%? That is information that if fed to you would either elicit a question, how can I get better? Or, I don't care, I'm just having fun, this is my game, and I'm going to play it the way I want. Both options are fine in normal content, by the way. You can totally enjoy this game the way you want to play, except when you want to hit that higher upper echelon tier. That's when you're going to have a mind shift. And that's where some of the drama comes in. And that's where I think the game itself could do a much better job at delivering these tools. And that's kind of what I believe. I've believed it for a long time. But these actions today reaffirm the harassment of and the fear that people have when it comes to DPS, when it comes to parsing, is that they're going to be made fun of because they don't know how they're performing. It's kind of a chicken and the egg the way I see it. And I hopefully we'll see that there are going to be some good situations that come out of it. There's going to be some good discussions that come from this, and ultimately the game overall improves, the community improves and get better. But again, this kind of all started back in February. This is the first case that this has gone off source, and that verified checkmark is a real key piece to it. So should you use parsers? Well, I think the answer is that what are you trying to achieve in the game? If you're trying to really take your game to the next level, yes, but don't talk about it, and maybe don't be a dick. Anyway, for Work to Game, this has been Brian. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think about these topics in the conversation below. I'm really interested in what you think and how you feel. And should this ban have been a thing, or should streamers get a special privilege? I don't think streamers or content creators deserve special privileges. That goes for me included. I think that it's a game and we're all a part of it, whether our face is on camera or not. So anyway, that's just me. Let me know what you think. Love you very much. Hopefully you have a fantastic day and happy Starlight celebration, y'all. See you next time.